Uncorrodable. You've heard this term before. It's not a new deck type. In fact, it's been around for 9 months and counting. But I think this is the time when Uncorrodable truly shines. As people are struggling to find better corps that can deal with the myriad of runners nowadays, I think this is something that is worth looking at. So it's basically a modern take over the good old Uncorrodable deck type, which, if you're not familiar with, is basically a deck that plays lots of barriers and lots of program trashing mechanisms to force the runner's Corroder into the bin again and again and again and again. And you score agendas while the Corroders are hiding in the bin. So this used to be good because criminals were everywhere and criminals don't have much recursion in terms of getting their programs back from the hit. But now with Anarchs and especially Prepaid Kit running all over the place, you might be wondering, are you kidding me? They'll just clone chip that Fractal back, and it's not even a Corroder, it's a lady. Good luck power shutting that down. And it's true, there are not that many new program trashing mechanisms in the latest data packs. It's still the same old power shutdown Archer, Will-O-the-Wisp. But I think it's a forgotten archetype, and I think it will definitely pay off nowadays if you play it, because no one is expecting it, especially the Archer. So, I'm playing up against a Chaos Theory Big Rig, and here, this is what I really like about Titan. Titan is a relatively new ID, and what it basically does is when you play something like this and ice onto a remote on turn 2, it basically forces the runner to check it, because if it's an Atlas, they're in trouble. They're in huge trouble. If they let me get an Atlas with a single counter on it, they are in for a tough time. So I like the fact that it punishes the runner, forces the runner to make bad decisions such as this, to install the SMC just to get a Corroder and go down to 1 credit on their turn. So this horribly set back my opponent's tempo, and he didn't even get an agenda for it because I was bluffing with the Ash. So I definitely want to take advantage of this window, and I'll definitely do so. Because he made a successful run last turn, I'm going to play the power shutdown. Sadly, I cannot hit his Corroder, which I really want to, but I get the next best thing, his recursion. So that's one less piece of recursion he has. That's one less way of him getting his Corroder back once I actually do trash his Corroder. Sadly, he does get an SMC out, so that protects his Corroder from the next power shutdown if I ever draw into it. So that's unfortunate, but hey, you can't have your cake and eat it too. So far, I'm actually looking pretty good. I forced my opponent into going down to 0 credits. This is not good for his particular deck, because in this case, he is actually running a Magnum Opus based deck. So not having the Magnum Opus early on and having to scrounge for credits, he's now at 0 credits, actually gives me a lot of breathing room. Instead of hammering R&D or HQ, he's now contemplating running my remotes, because I just installed another new item into the remote with the Ash. As you saw, it was a Will-O-the-Wisp, but in his mind, of course, it could be an Atlas. And he knows that he can not really contest the Atlas unless he wants to, and this is taking so long right now because he has a Stim Hack in hand and he's debating on how to use the Stim Hack. The thing is, he needs his Magnum Opus to assure him of the mid to late game. So if he uses his Stim Hack to liberate his Magnum Opus from his deck, he's not going to have enough credits to beat the Ash Trace. So that's going to be very troublesome for him. If he does use the Stim Hack to beat the Ash, and it turns out that the Will-O-the-Wisp is indeed not an agenda, he would have wasted his Stim Hack. So this is a very troubling position that I place him in, and this is really giving me a huge advantage. So he does indeed bring out his Magnum Opus, bringing him down to 3 credits total. Here I'm just looking at the timing structure of the run once again. After he confirmed that he wanted to make a successful run, I res Will-O-the-Wisp and bury his Corroder. So now you notice he's 1 SMC down, 1 clone chip down, and the only Corroder in his deck is now at the bottom of his deck, which means I can safely score behind that wraparound. Probably. Well, I don't have any LSs in my hand, so that will wait. Unfortunately, I cannot capitalize on this scoring window. He's on 0 credits, he has no programs except for Magnum Opus. He's in a rut right now, but he can easily recover. Never ever underestimate Magnum Opus economy. So he begins just clicking away right now, and in the meantime, because he does not have any tutor out, I can safely score the hostile without worrying about clot. Yeah, that's a new challenge you have to work around nowadays. With Shapers potentially packing clots, you have to be very wary before you can score that hostile takeover. So it's still doable, but a little harder now. Now, hostiles are quite integral to this deck because it gives you the jumpstart in cash you need. There's not much cash in this deck. Most of the money, if all my agendas are money related. So this is really a snowball deck in terms of if I can score agendas, I will win more because I have more money. Okay, I draw into all three of my hostile takeovers, so I do not hesitate to score the second one, especially because I have a Mark Yale sitting in the remote. I can actually, I really do want to score the hostile takeovers because firstly, he might be legworking me anytime now. Secondly, more importantly, I need to get these hostiles out before the clock hits the table. And yes, clock can now hit the table because he has SMC out. So I'm not going to score the last hostile. Instead, I'm going to bait him with an Ash. And I'm going to install a new piece of ice on R&D. Because R&D is otherwise very exposed, with 2 bad pump, he can easily run through the ice wall. Don't forget, he can now fetch his Corroder from the bottom of his deck with the SMC. So that's my worry. What I'm looking for right now is a power shutdown to get rid of his SMC. Hopefully I can do that. Unfortunately, it still requires me to wait for him to make a run. So here I draw into my most important ice. Archer is the star of this deck. Positioning it is your key to victory, or the reason why you lost. Where you put your Archer is very, very important. Here I choose to put it on HQ because it is rather unexpected. I'm taking the risk not to put it on a remote. Placing it on a remote seems like a safe play, and really it is. But yeah, I was just worried about a legwork or something. So here, I could rest the Archer, but he has 20 credits and an SMC. So obviously, I'm not going to waste one hostile takeover just for an Archer that he can easily sharpshoot or something. So here, I'm going to rest the Merumati instead, which forces him to use his SMC to get his Corroder out. If he does that, I will have a shot at shooting down his Corroder. What you actually want to do is to lure him into installing that Corroder so that I can destroy it with all my tools. Will of the Wisp, Power Shutdown, Archer, etc. SMC is bad. SMC means he can morph into anything to his liking, including the Deadly Clot. Well, he can't because Clot is in his archives, in his heap rather, but you never know what he can bring out, and SMC represents potential. You do not want the runner to have potential. You want to take away the power from them. So here, I'm going to force it. I res the Ichi 2.0, a nasty, nasty surprise. It is expensive influence, but hey, Titan has all the influence in the world, so just play Ichi 2. Why not? And because this is his third click, he cannot click through the subroutines. He is basically forced to break the Ichi 2. If he does not, he's going to lose his Magnum Opus and his SMC. He's going to lose a lot of tempo. So that will not happen. He brings out his Femme Fatale, which is pretty painful for me, but hey, I don't mind. I'm trading 8 of my credits for 9 of his credits, so that's a fair trade for me. And he bypasses the Ichi. Unfortunately for him, because he used up his last tutor to get his Ichi, he won't get through the ice wall, and that's the beauty of Uncorrodable. The whole point of this deck is to ensure that is to tax all their tutors, all their recursion, so much so that they have no time to get their Barrier Breaker out. And look at this, because he spent his, well, granted Clot is in a heap, but if his Clot was in his stack instead, if he didn't draw the Clot earlier, I wouldn't have been able to score this last hostile, because the SMC was on the board. It represents the potential for Clot. Without Clot, without the threat of installing a Clot, I can safely score the hostile. In the meantime, he loads up his workshop with lots and lots of hardware and an Artman. I need to be very careful of the Artman. As long as he has a lot of money, which he can easily achieve with Magnum Opus, I have to respect the fact that he can break any of my ice just by dumping credits onto a potential Artman. So this is not a safe time to score an agenda behind the wraparound. If I want to do so, I need to do so discreetly by installing the Atlas and unadvancing it. But instead, I decide to go for this. I install the Merumati on the remote So now I have a 1 strength barrier protecting a 7 strength barrier. I don't think he'll be able to get into this remote. And I'm so confident of that I'm going to advance the Atlas. Am I correct? Only time will tell. This is a huge gamble. If he has an SMC in hand and plays it, he will get through my remote, no questions asked. He can easily set Artman to strength 1 to get past Merubati and bring out his Corroder to get past. Well, actually, he can just bring out his Corroder to get past both ice. So, yes, I'm basically gambling that he cannot get in, and turns out I was right. Now, even if he brought out his Corroder, it wouldn't be all is not lost for me, because I do have an Ash guarding the Atlas alongside the Will of the Wisp. So even if he makes a successful run, Ash will stop him from accessing the Atlas, while Will of the Wisp will kill his Corroder, send it back to the bottom of his stack, so that he cannot run the server again. So he made the right choice by not running the server. Well, he can't anyway, because he doesn't have an SMC. And I'm basically in a very dominant position right now, because I have 5 agenda points and a Baltic Labor in hand. So if he does not bring out anything that can stop me, and he does not, I basically won the game right here, because I can simply tutor for my Atlas to win the game. So yeah, this is Uncorrodable, folks. I think it's pretty strong right now. But that being said, this is only my first game against with this deck. I'd like to see how it fares against a runner with more recursion, such as Prepaid Kate or an Anarch. Anarchs are always very deadly. And I would definitely like to see how this does against your typical criminal, because most typical criminals run 2 Fractors, but they have special order to counter Will of the Wisp. So Will of the Wisp is rather useless against most criminals. And of course, they can set up quickly, and they can threaten Account Siphon, both of which are nasty for my deck. So I need to try this out with more matchups to find out if this really is a good deck. But for now, it's looking promising. Do try it yourself, it's pretty fun, albeit a bit sadistic. Torturing your opponent with advanced agendas, knowing that they have absolutely no way in. Thanks for watching. Happy net running. Goodbye.